Hi, everyone. This is Susan Ganeshan. I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at Emplifi, and very happy to welcome you to our part 2 of our social media maturity webinar series. This is a series where we're focusing on how to mature your overall social media stance through 3 different angles, including marketing, commerce, and care. Today's discussion will mostly focus on commerce, and we're going to unpack how some of these top brands around the globe are really using social proof and the voice of the customer in order to drive real revenue in their business with some pretty impressive numbers. But first, I'd like to while we're doing a poll, we have a quick poll that my team's going to bring up and ask you guys a question and say, try to understand where you're currently using your user-generated content. And we'll just let that tally up a little bit. Well, Emmy, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Susan, and thanks for having me, not for the first time on an Emplifi webinar. My name is Emmy. As I might have touched on just a second ago, I'm based in the United Kingdom. I'm now a freelancer and a consultant, but I spent 10 years at Emplifi in a number of different roles up until the end of last year, from sales to account management and as a consultant as well. And I've worked with a number of big global brands over the past 10, 15 years in social to help them get off the ground and through to today become mature, successful brands in a multiplicity of platforms. So once again, thank you very much for having me today.
Oh, thanks, Emmy, for joining us. I love doing these with you. You have so much experience and knowledge of real world use. So I'm just going to ask my team, can you go back to the poll that we were just conducting and see how things came out for folks online? So the biggest challenge is they're saying finding quality content. That is a big challenge because finding the content and then ensuring that it's not sort of embarrassing to your brand or to the people who might use it can be a challenge, although there's tech to help you do that. And then getting permissions, there's also tech to help do that out there, including Emplifi's tech. But we'll get more into that a little bit later. Thanks, Molly, for bringing us to that poll. Let's just go on then. Okay, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the keys to making social commerce successful. In marketing, I have often said that I believe that there's no silver bullet in marketing. Emmy, are you tired of hearing me say that phrase yet? It would be amazing if there was just one great thing we could do in order to attract a customer, and it always worked. And if we just did that one thing, the customers would come and they would buy our products, and it just doesn't work that way. And the reality is that in a smaller microcosm of that same message is that there's no silver bullet in commerce, in e-commerce either, and that you have to do it all right there as well. So you have to meet the buyers where they are. You have to be present in all the social and digital channels. You have to provide interesting, influencing, and proving content, trusted content. And you end up having to build trust over time. You have to be persuasive and scalable and help the consumer guide their purchasing behavior. So we have lots of examples on that today and how both UGC ratings and reviews and all of the text and data in there can better power your overall efforts in this area. So one thing you should think about is that you in that realm of having to do everything right, the impact that you can have is real, right? 10 years ago, brands were spending about 25 billion on social ads. Now they're spending 10 times that. So you don't have a choice. You've got to be present in those social channels. And you've got to spend your time attracting audiences of all ages. I think people, Emmy, and I think you might agree to this, people are getting more aggressive about purchasing things online. I feel it myself. Or is that happening with you?
I mean, I'm probably abnormal in the sense that I buy almost everything online these days. Partially because I live in the countryside, I don't live in a city, but also in the main, I don't like going out kind of just randomly shopping. And someone says, "Hey, let's go and spend a day shopping." I'd rather watch paint dry. But that being said, I know plenty of people do, and occasionally, when it comes to buying gifts and stuff, I do like going to town and really researching and looking around for something really nice to give my wife, my kids, or my family, or whatever. But yeah, I think one of the big triggers, which is an obvious thing in terms of spurring commerce, digital commerce, was obviously COVID. The pandemic and the two waves of pandemics saw a huge uptick in adoption of digital commerce. So much so that actually, for many people, they actually have become a little bit like me, just reticent to go to shops unless they really, really have to. But equally, I think something you kind of touched on earlier is that, to bearing in mind that the internet itself is a huge digital high street with lots of inverted commas shops on it. I still like being drawn into those proverbial digital shops, and one way to do that is with really appealing content that speaks to me.
That's right. And, there's certain things as, the primary sort of buyer in my household, there's certain things that I would just never traditionally have purchased online that I find myself buying these days. I recently just purchased a new duvet cover. And those are things like it costs a lot of money. Two, you have to touch it and feel it and see it in your space. And, colors can be really tricky. But I saw this duvet cover. I sort of had my eye on it. The company did a great job once they saw me kind of click around their ads a little bit. Of course, they retargeted me like there was no tomorrow. But the thing was, the influencer who had posted about this particular bedding talked about how soft and showed it in a beautiful place, but it was out of stock. So anyway, I had to wait a little bit. But I was convinced enough that this was going to be amazing. And the reason I was convinced was because of the ratings and reviews. The particular bedding that I was going after had 348 reviews, and to a T, every single one said that it was literally the softest, most beautiful bedding that they've ever purchased. And so I kind of just felt like I had to have it. It was also, while bedding is generally a more expensive purchase, this was actually really affordable for that size bed. And I went for it and I loved it. And I just like it. It's like sleeping in a little cloud of fluff. It's so amazing. So anyway, that's by way of saying, we are getting a little bit more aggressive about our, since post-COVID and just since some of the new technology has come out. And what the technology is doing is it's finding the ratings and reviews and placing them against the right products. It is, asking for ratings and reviews from your customers. It is using the content in there and understanding how to put the consumer at the center of your marketing efforts, your care efforts, your commerce efforts, and breaking down the silos in those businesses so that ultimately these teams are working together and they're totally changing the buyer journey and improving it. So, Emmy, you don't have to drive out from your countryside home into the city in order to go find these things, because you're getting all the information you need in order to make a confident decision. So that's what we advise. Like, look, let's talk about this intersection and putting people in the center of this world. So, Emmy, why don't we look at some examples of when this has happened?
Sure. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about the impact and ultimately what this slide is really trying to tell us. UGC, ratings and reviews, or if we're going to clump those all together and call it social proof, it's not just a nice to have. It's actually, I feel, and I think we all feel, at Emplifi anyway, it's a critical part of today's social and commerce experience. It's just that. And case in point, what you've just described, for many of us who do probably spend proportionally a little bit more online than we may do in bricks and mortar stores, getting all the intel we want during that experience is really key. There are kind of a lot of data points to kind of back this up and substantiate this. And here's a really good example taken from Emplifi's recent and awesome Pulse survey. If you haven't downloaded that already, just search for Emplifi Pulse survey. It's a survey across about 1,000 consumers. And what they've said is up to 65% of their purchases are driven by UGC or social proof, like ratings and reviews. And what it's also telling us is that UGC is a jaw-dropping 4 times more effective than influencer content or posts when it comes to driving or influencing purchases. Why is that? It's fairly straightforward. We've all seen content with a really well-known A-list Hollywood actor or actress or sports star or whoever. And part of me thinks, well, that person doesn't speak to me. In fact, they're wildly different to me in many ways. User-generated content is authentic content that just does, as Susan alluded to, it builds trust and gives us the confidence to go and buy. That's exactly what this slide is all about. And why don't we just, if I can just click forward, maybe 1 or 2 slides, and actually look at some real life examples of brands who are doing this well. Here we go. Just trying to find the clicker to click forward. Oops, skipping ahead. Spoiler alert there. So let's just touch upon a really good example here and what you can see on the slide. This is TUI, and for those of you perhaps outside of Europe, TUI is probably the largest travel and vacation holiday operator in Europe. I know it operates in about 30 countries. It sends people to destinations in way more countries than that and has tens of millions of customers every year in multiple languages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What they're doing with Emplifi right now is first of all, they're harvesting the content, customer content where they tag TUI, positive customer content. And what they're then doing is republishing that across their socials. The impact of this is very positive. First of all, they're driving deeper engagement and meaningful engagement, not just likes and comments and fluffy stuff like that, but meaningful engagement. And the second thing it's doing is actually helping TUI to raise the bar in terms of positive sentiment, which is a key KPI, not just for them, but for many other brands. So it has a twofold kind of business impact. At the same time, it was nice to see in a poll that one of the challenges, or the key challenge for you guys out there right now, is sourcing quality content. This is exactly what TUI in conjunction with Emplifi is doing. It's sourcing that quality content they know will please the customers, and guess what? Give them the confidence to go and buy or perhaps investigate further. So a really, really nice example there.
Amy, let me jump in there too about the content, because there's you just mentioned TUI's tagged, and so we can easily find that content. Sometimes the brand isn't quite tagged, and therefore it makes it a little harder. So then you need algorithms that can look through online text and can look at online images and determine if they contain your brand. So we do actually have an AI powered image recognizing capability within our platform as well. So we could be able to say, okay, let's say I'm Nike, who's one of our customers, and I'm looking for user generated content showing shoes of a particular style in the wild, being worn by everyday people. And you can use that image detection capability to go find them. It's really, really cool and really powerful. So there's lots of ways now to find and weed through that content. And a good platform will even prioritize the content for you to say, these images are a little more clear. They're a little bit, more, representative of the brand style that you have, and they'll pop those to the top with a higher ranking.
Yeah, that's right. And it just makes life a lot easier, and like something we've always talked about at Emplifi is taking the guesswork out of your sort of social marketing, or in this case, your social commerce. So really, really good. Thank you, Susan, for adding on to what I was just commenting on TUI. Take it away, Susan. Let's talk about life outside of social. Let's talk about how brands can do a great job of embedding UGC in the experience in their owned and operated properties.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Marketing sits in one part of the business, and the web property, the digital team, is probably in 99% of businesses, a completely separate group. And kind of, they don't necessarily think to share with one another, but power is in sharing. Sharing is caring. We can share that data over to the digital team and have them use them on digital properties. Carhartt is one of my favorite examples because they just show the cutest little kids in these Carhartt outfits. Carhartt's, a kind of rough and rugged kind of brand. And all of a sudden, I'm noticing it everywhere. I think it's funny. I bet everyone on this call, as soon as you hang up, whether you're driving across the streets of London or hopping on a plane to someplace else in the world, you'll see someone wearing a Carhartt hat or jacket or whatever. But the cutest is when they put those little babies in it. And those are, the majority of them are user-generated content. People who matched their husband's shirt to their kid's shirt, and then they put that out there on their website. This has been a great motivator for the Carhartt team and the Carhartt sales, and it gives that detail behind how does this look on the kids and the adults. And imagine, the boost in sales. It's too cute. So we love when organizations between the marketing team and the digital team actually share this data. There's another team to share it with, which is the care team, because maybe you're rolling out a new product and you need to let the care team know, hey, this product's coming out. You might get additional questions about this product. And here's what we're learning from what users have posted in reviews. Some users are saying it runs big. Others are saying it runs small. But when we classify those two things, we're able to say women say it runs big, men say it runs small. And so we can provide that advice right in our description to minimize some of the returns or any other frustration along that buying journey. And so there's a lot of great data that you can share with the care team as well. Awesome. So let's take a look at our next example, which is Center Parcs. And Emmy, I know you've done a lot of work with Center Parcs, so I'm going to let you cover this one.
So Center Parcs, I know that they are not just embedded in their web experience, but actually also in their email as well. So what we're starting to do here, Susan and myself, is tell a story of how, what a great place to start is to harvest that social content and repurpose it, or rather republish it for social. What Susan's just talked about is in the web experience, and what in Center Parcs' case, they put in another one in their omni-channel environment, which is in email, and a number of brands are doing this as well. And what this can do is have slightly more personalized content into your inbox, and also it can also then send UGC and reminders for things like cart abandonment. Trying to get that out right now. I know Alo Yoga do exactly the same kind of thing, and you can see the results yourself. They really speak for themselves here in terms of the kind of the uplift in terms of all the kind of metrics you can see in front of you. So if I was a brand right now looking to embed UGC into my marketing and commerce experience, I would probably start with social. It's a great place to kind of test and learn, and it's like, not only will it drive deeper engagement, it will also help you save a ton of money in terms of content creation. And then perhaps what we should do is start to explore avenues and to do some testing within your owned and operated estate. There are tons of examples who do this. Sephora is an example we shared before. They have a fantastic user gallery. The list goes on. Alo Yoga, I've suggested, have a look at their website. Nike, all these amazing brands, fashion and apparel, beauty, and beyond travel are really good examples of businesses just doing really well.
Right. And so some of the numbers, they pop from this page, right? Increased engagement rate, increased monthly nights booked, which is the measure that matters, for a travel brand like Center Parcs. And, when you think about it, think about how much time you spend working, and then when you want to do your holiday, your vacation, you want to make sure that you're not, in a place that's not comfortable for you. And so when you see others having taken those pictures, having proved that, that environment is something that will work for you, it brings that depth, it brings authenticity into that, regular sort of brand imagery that, might be professional photos, which, always have their place here, but it gives the real life dynamic to it. And that's the way you can maximize this return. So what we're saying, in case it wasn't totally clear, is you got to be everywhere. You need to be able to differentiate your brand from the others. As soon as someone like pauses on Instagram on a particular topic, let's say I pause on a bathing suit because that looks interesting. I might be interested in buying that. Now, all of a sudden, 10 other brands are going to serve me up their bathing suit ads, right? And so I need to be thinking and think about differentiation from those other brands. Some of the ways you can get that is through that real authentic social proof. And you need to, in order to get that person over the line to the purchase, to just, take the gamble like I did on that bedding, right? You need to be able to provide them a trust factor and that extra level of, what is being said about it. 348 reviews on one bedspread, and was definitely a trust factor for me. And so, more and more people. We did another survey, and I would like to point everybody to it, where we showed like the different age groups and how, of course, millennials are kind of my age in that realm, or we're like out there on Facebook, and then you go downstream a little bit and you get to the people who are more or younger, and you get to the Instagram age, and then you go down a little younger and you get to the TikTok age. The answer is you got to be on all of those places. So you need technology that can help you do something like multi-publish to all of those platforms all at one time. You don't have, reams of people and you don't have all this time in order to go to each one of those channels and put your content out there. You want it instant all at once. And so you need the technology to support you. And most people don't even know how important it is just to have that support. The other thing you can get out of the technology, and one of the things we heard in that poll was, can I grab the UGC and approve it first? Get permission from the person who created it. And absolutely, that is part of most good technology platforms, and certainly part of ours. And so let the tech do the work for you so you don't have to. But the point is, too, not just about getting the data out there so you get the shopping. The other aspect of all of this is, again, going back to that sharing is caring idea, that you can take all of this data and you, whether it's an image or the comments or a review or, wherever else on the web we might find it, and we can use it to power other parts of our business. So not sure if you've got the price right? Look through this data and search for comments on pricing. What about packaging? What about colors? Maybe you're describing something as red, but when consumers get it in hand, they think it's more like a hot pink. Okay, well, let's put that into our descriptions and let folks know that there are some nuances here, or show other images of it in other light. These are the barriers that you'll have to that digital shopping, but you can easily get by them if you're carefully listening to everything this data is telling you.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what this slide is saying here is it's another confirmation of something we already know and experience every day. And let me just explain what that means. So last year I probably hosted and spoke at about six to 10 events for Emplifi, sometimes in person, sometimes online. And when I was at the in-person ones, I would say hands up, who's been on one social platform today? Keep your hand up who've been on 2 and 3. And most people there who are Gen A's or millennials or whatever would keep their hands up all the time. And I would say keep your hands up if you've seen more than one post that you frankly thought is terrible, it doesn't speak to you, and everyone would keep their hands up, right? And I know this because this is just how it works. I'm sure everyone on the call right now has probably seen some content in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, or X that frankly doesn't speak to you. And this is one of the challenges, that we every day we're bombarded with millions of messages. It's one of the older kind of sayings in marketing, right? We know that, but so many of them are just really missing the mark and do nothing to pique our interest in the product or the brand. So with that in mind, as Susan alluded to a minute ago, just to differentiate and to give consumers what they want, you need to embed real human content alongside, whether it is at a product page or even in a kind of category page, or even just across your socials. And that's helping you to offset that irritation. And when you do see, really good execution of user-generated content, and of course, don't get me wrong, brands are oftentimes very, very good storytellers in their own right. We can all think of some good examples, but just to mitigate this additional piece of insight from the Pulse survey, you need to, like I said earlier, this isn't a nice to have, it's absolutely critical. And what Susan's just pointed out there, it's really easy to do. It's a low risk thing to do. It's very cost effective in terms of offsetting the cost of content creation, and guess what, driving performance. And that's not just engagement, but it's also adding to the bottom line as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, these metrics and these numbers prove also that the value of just listening to all of that data is helps you get it, the descriptions, the content, the campaigns, the messaging, the strategy, even choosing your next line of products. The data in here is like a gold mine of, where might we make the most money? So what's the challenge then for that social media marketer or digital marketer that's using these platforms, is actually grabbing that data and pushing it throughout the organization to the people who might find it useful. And then maybe knocking on their door and saying, let's talk about this data together. Because I think together, if we look at it, we will find it useful, and we will find it and can improve our business. For me, I love kind of being the center of attention. So I love taking data that I produce and pushing it across the organization. And it can be a little nerve-wracking because people might be like, well, I'm not sure if that's enough data. And it's like, okay, fine, we'll go gather more and come back to you in a month and tell you if it says anything different. But in the meantime, that it truly is a goldmine of insight that we can gather through all that data. You definitely want to fuel your overall business strategy with information that the consumer can provide you through all of this data, but you also don't want to over-index on just one piece of feedback. You want to understand the overall trends. So that makes that reporting on this data and using it for listening extremely powerful and useful. Let's take a look at one other use case, and that is with Navy Hair Care. In the case of Navy Hair Care, they saw great repeat visits to their site, much improved engagement rate on purchasing. And, really, I think through this process have come up with a perfect quote, which is, it's like a customer leaving a comment. We can only get the value out of it with Emplifi, right? So you don't have time to read every single comment about everything, but we can use the data once it's sliced and diced and reported on in an effective way, much more useful, much more efficiently in the business. So Navy, they're great. They're a great example of taking UGC, helping it to become shoppable, actively listening to what their customers are saying. And that's how you get that 264% increase in repeat visits and that huge jump in engagement.
Yeah, that's right. Susan, one thing that that quote doesn't say, and there is an online full case study. I'll see if I can dig it out and share it in the chat in a minute. But one thing, whether it's Jeremy or one of the team says, is that, you know, obviously there's Navy, like any kind of CPG brand, gathers an awful lot of consumer insight. But what they're saying ratings and reviews doesn't in particular is just that it tells us in real time how and why people are buying our product, how and why people are using our products. That's amazing. And, you know, the fact that consumers are voluntarily leaving that kind of content is just testament that it's a self-fueling virtuous circle here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what we've covered. We've covered building trust with your audience is truly going to happen when you can provide that social proof. Social proof, ratings and reviews proof, what have you. And that seems like that's an obvious statement. But then, okay, well, how am I going to get it? Well, this is where technology comes in. Technology can be brilliant on finding all of those reviews for you, getting them applied to the right product, for, you know, consistency with the user. You know, it's nothing's more frustrating than, you know, say you go to buy some, you know, you don't buy makeup, but I do. And say you go to buy makeup and the review is about the lipstick, not the mascara that you're trying to buy. Well, that doesn't work for me, right? Like I don't need a generic review about the company's products generically. I need it about that particular product. So you need technology that can help you get these things aligned, put in place very easily. It's scalable. It uses the right amount of AI to do it. You need to improve your performance because, you know, most social teams, most marketing teams, most digital teams, most care teams, just frankly, we're all understaffed, right? We're all trying to do more with less. So you need the technology to help you increase that performance. You need the technology to help you dig the insights out, and you need technology to help you drive the real savings that you can get by using user-generated content just as much as your own. So instead of taking 45 pictures of that bedspread or bathing suit or makeup once applied, you know, let the users and the people out there speak on your behalf, and then use the technology to go find those reviews and get them applied to the right story. So we are at this point, you know, really proud of the technology we've built in this area. I think uniquely, Emmy, and maybe, you know, you can tell me if you see other vendors out there, but I think uniquely brought UGC together with ratings and reviews, together with listening, together with a social media marketing platform, together with a care platform. Because we see the value in all of those things and all of that data being aware and something that we can funnel to those different parts of the organization to all take unified actions on. Emmy, what's your take on the market generally?
So obviously I'm going to be slightly biased because I worked at Emplifi for a very long time, but at the same time, what that meant was I met customers and prospects who were using a variety of different tools, you know, day in, day out. I think, this is just my completely candid opinion, I think where Emplifi is really strong is in a couple of areas. We talked about the kind of the social care last week. And for those of you who had taken interest, I would look at that. In terms of what that means is the ability for a really large organization or even small to manage and triage conversations. That's where Emplifi is right now. It's very, very strong. However, in the context of today, I think just the sort of the ease of use. And I used to say to customers and prospects all the time, I'm about as technical as a paperclip. I'm not technical, but I know I find the user experience of, you know, talking at UGC as an example of harvesting that content, prioritizing it, seeking the permissions, and then publishing it, and then measuring the impact. It's literally child's play. And both my kids, who are 20 and 17, they're experts with technology, particularly kind of home electronics, you know, PlayStations and so on. Honestly, if I let them loose on this kind of kit, they could do this in minutes. They're really, really savvy. So for all of you guys out there right now who are social and commerce and digital professionals, you would find this literally child's play. And I think what we've tried to do today is tell some stories about how some innovative brands are doing it right now. I would really look at some of the other sort of stories, look at that pulse survey as well. It all starts to tie together. And lastly, if you've got questions, just reach out to all the lovely ladies and gentlemen and customer success teams in Emplifi. They're very well versed to answer your questions. But yeah, I think in terms of where Emplifi really excels, just to go back to that question, bringing that kind of social commerce and social shopping opportunity into existence, and just by that process, Emplifi probably does it better than anyone else right now.
Thanks, Emmy. And I didn't mean to tee up that total softball for you. I really appreciate it. You know, Forrester says the same. You know, we're at the top of the Forrester wave, and you know, other industry analysts like IDC have said that our strategy and our focus on bringing these together is, to use their word, brilliant. But I'm not trying to do the hard sell here. But what I do think everybody on this line needs to know is that you have to let the technology do the work for you. That's the only way you can scale, and it's the only way you can maximize the benefit of this spend in your business, in this effort in your business. And so, you know, one thing, you know, Molly, if you can bring up the next poll, we'd love to know, do you want to see it in action? We could actually show you in action with your data, or give us, you know, one of your brand channels as well as your competitor brand channel, and we can do a little audit for you and tell you how you compare to them. You know, why not? Couldn't hurt. Also, in case anyone who's listening in is either currently using one of our competitors' products, but kind of interested because maybe it's not going so well, maybe the support's not quite there, or maybe it's not scaling well, we do have some competitive packages that we're offering right now that will allow you to switch with a very zero, could be up to zero or very small switching cost. But to get to our platform, because it does scale and it is rated one of the best. So anyway, inquire about those. Let us know. Chat with us. Having those conversations, you know, I think what we've found is a lot of brands are super happy they did. And we're super happy they do it as well, because then their business shows all those numbers that we put up for brands like TUI and Center Parcs and others. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna see if there are any questions. Survey poll should be launched. So I think if you want to click on, is it via a poll, Molly, or is it, if you can just message me, or is it on they click on survey? Okay, it should have come up on your screen. So just let us know if you want to have that conversation with us. Overall, Emmy, any final thoughts to bring to bear here?
No, I mean, I just think for all the lovely people who've taken the time to join the call, first of all, thank you. It's been wonderful to see so many of you join from so many markets. Relate this to your own day-to-day digital and shopping journeys. You know, I think about, you know, I live in a country, but yes, I go to London 2-3 days a week. I meet people, and occasionally I do pop into shops and stuff. But when I am at home, and bizarrely yesterday, I had to buy a replacement steel watch strap, and guess what? I looked at the ratings and reviews. I bought it from a website I'd never come across. It seemed to be indexed highly in Google, and they had the products, and they seemed to be very good value price. But actually, it was the ratings and reviews, less so the UGC in this case, although they had both. So all I think about your day-to-day, you know, your own personal journeys, and see how what we've shown you today relates to you, because I guarantee it'll speak volumes. And then think about, actually, you know what? I like what these guys were saying. I quite like some of that for my own brand. And if so, then just reach out to the good folks at Emplifi, because I know, work with them for a very long time, and they'd be very keen to help and advise. And the last thing I would say, and this is not less about the hard sell, and just thinking about other operators in the marketplace, time and time again, people would say, look, the folks we're dealing with at brand X over there, they're really nice. But often the Achilles heel, or the kind of the chink in the armor, was the kind of measurability of the kind of content or the UGC they were publishing. So just put Emplifi to the test. The data behind the storytelling is much better.
Great. Yep. New guides out there, you guys. Go look at our resources. Thanks, Emmy, as always, for coming up and sharing all your experience that you've had with our various customers and various brands that you continue to work with, and expertise here. We really enjoyed that partnership. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on part 3 coming up in a couple of days. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.